vulnerabilities that will allow the platform to be taken. Your NatSec anxiety is valid, especially when you consider it's a NatSec issue for every country. That is what I'm talking about, dude. Like, so many fucking world leaders, journalists, dissidents, they all are on Twitter. They use Twitter. Twitter is tracking every fucking step that they take. They're tracking their IPs. Like, there is so much that you could do. If there was a massive fucking security breach in Twitter, which has happened before, you could, that could lead to really, really massive fucking problems down the line. If one more person fucking links this shit to me, I'm going to beat them into space. I don't want to fucking permanently ban you, but shut the fuck up, dude. Shut the fuck up, please. I don't care. There's no moderation on the fucking platform. Why are you showing this dumb shit to me?
Theranos began as a startup of almost mythical proportions and goals in 2003.
It's just an incredible morality tale.
A woman once hailed as a Silicon Valley visionary is facing federal fraud charges tonight.
Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes has now officially been indicted on federal wire fraud charges. The U.S. Attorney's Office accusing her of engaging...
Imagine building a company that everyone thought would change the world, but ended up being one of the biggest frauds in history. Theranos, the company started in 2003 by Stanford dropout Elizabeth Holmes, was just that. They fooled everyone, receiving over $600 million of funding in the process. What Theranos promised was a revolutionary blood analyzer that could run hundreds of tests just from a finger prick in the comfort of your own home. However,
except it was just bullshit. It's not real. It never happened. That was not a real thing. What the fuck? Stanford is literally a fraud incubator. Hello, welcome to capitalism. Most of the fucking things that you don't consider to be, most of the things that you don't even consider to be fraudulent and consider to be like normal fucking rich people behavior is just fraudulent behavior that was able to reach a level of legitimacy before people were like, that's fraudulent, we should do something about it. Or they simply didn't make the mistake like Elizabeth Theranos did, and like Elizabeth Theranos Holmes did, or like Elon Musk is doing currently, which is steal from the rich. You can steal from the poor all you fucking want. But the moment that you actually have the audacity to steal from other rich people, you're going to jail, dog. You're going to get punished, okay?
However, this story isn't one of great success or inspiration. This story is about deceit, fraud, manipulation, and a CEO who would...
Her mistake was being a woman. Man, shut up. It's not because she was a woman either. Calm the fuck down. Obviously, there's a lot of fraudulent shit that pops off on Silicon Valley done by men in a big boys club that goes overlooked. But like, don't act like this is the only fucking reason. Okay? Come on. Don't girl boss this shit. Girl bossing is the literal reason why she was able to get away with it in the beginning anyway.
Stop at nothing to get her goal. This is the story of Theranos, a company once worth $9 billion, and the story of how it all came crashing down in one of the worst disasters in Silicon Valley history. What exactly was Theranos, and how did it go so horribly wrong? Elizabeth Holmes was born to a well-connected family with a rich history. From a young age, Elizabeth knew what she wanted in life, to be a billionaire. At age 18, she went on a Stanford-run tour of China, where she met a man 20 years her senior called Sonny. Sonny immigrated from Pakistan and had some success in the dot-com boom of 1999, pocketing $40 million in the process. He had what she wanted, money and the status of a successful entrepreneur. Sonny would later play a big role in Elizabeth's company. During another trip to Asia, Elizabeth witnessed the SARS outbreak. From that point, she came home determined to change the world. Upon returning home, she didn't leave her room for 5 days and slept 2 hours a night while working on a patent idea. The idea was to create a wearable patch which could continually test the blood of the wearer and admit the right dose of medicine in real time. Filled with determination, she dropped out of Stanford at age 19 and started her own company. The early days were not glamorous. The office of the new company was in a part of town known for shootings. One day, while in her car, Elizabeth was shot at, with the bullet just narrowly missing her. Despite this, she received a $1 million seed investment from her old neighbor, who had made some money investing in Hotmail. Early on, Elizabeth rode on the reputation of her investors. However, when it came to investors that specialized in medicine, she struggled to convince them as her lack of knowledge started showing. It wasn't a surprise because she had only spent a few semesters at university. So for most tech entrepreneurs, this kind of thing isn't a big issue. For example, Mark Zuckerberg only needed to master coding as a child, and he could have struck it big with little university knowledge. On the other hand, medicine and chemistry are fields that require decades of knowledge and research to find a breakthrough. Regardless, by the end of the year, Elizabeth had nearly $6 million in funding, and her idea had changed. Now, the blood testing would be done by a cartridge and reader system. Here's how it was supposed to work. Patients would prick their fingers, storing blood in a small cartridge. Pushing this cartridge into a machine would run the tests. The Theranos machine.
What? They all declined to talk about Sunny's grooming and the sexual abuse she faced? What do you mean by that? She only got far because she's a woman and people milked her for optics? Wait, I do have radfems in here who are fucking defending Theranos, dude? What the fuck? That's crazy. Wait, she got groomed and faced sexual abuse? Okay, that's fine. Then you're right, actually. She should be allowed to fucking tell your grandfather that, you know, sell your grandfather on a fucking lie that like a little pinprick will be able to quickly fucking figure out all of the necessary medical intervention. It's true. She should do a little bit of fucking fraud, man. I don't understand. Like, she was fucking sexually assaulted. Like, what? Everybody gets that. Hashtag girl bosses get it done. Yeah.
Machines envisioned would perform tests on the spot and beam information via the internet to a lab where personnel would interpret the results and send a report back. Traditionally, the current industry procedure was to draw a syringe full of blood from a vein and physically send the sample to a lab. The old way used large machines the size of several business photocopiers, and the results would take a few days to get back from a doctor. Theranos would try to scale down the components of these massive machines to fit into a box the size of a personal computer. Theranos was going to make this process faster, more comfortable, and completely bypass the need for a doctor. In this particular medical field, there are many components that are used to test blood, each of which performs a different type of test. For example, one test shoots a beam of light into the sample blood and measures the light reflected, while other tests require chemical reactions. Now this is the big lie and the problem with Theranos. There were several issues that made the Theranos machines nearly impossible. Firstly, the components would interfere with each other when placed in close proximity due to a magnitude of problems including heat, light, and electrical activity. Next, to have sufficient volume of test samples from only a pinprick on a finger, the drops of blood had to be diluted. Over-diluted samples gave inaccurate results and was outside the detection capability of the hardware. So in short, for the technology to be possible, Theranos had to make major breakthroughs on all fronts of blood analysis. They had to do all of this while only reporting to Elizabeth, who didn't really have the knowledge. Skipping forward to 2006, Theranos had some momentum and a prototype called the Theranos 1.0. Elizabeth enlisted engineers to design a new version called the Edison. However, no Theranos machine would ever be accurate or capable of performing the full range of tests that Elizabeth claimed. Elizabeth started to push the engineering team manager to make the Edison development run 24/7. When the manager refused, stating that the engineers were overworked as it is, Elizabeth hired a parallel engineering team and pitted the two teams against each other in a survival of the fittest race.
It's called girl bossing, baby. She's allowed to do that.
This kind of thing was actually
even though that's like kind of gross, and like when Elon does it, we would, if Elon were to do such a thing, and he's done like worse shit obviously than that as far as like labor practices goes, we adequately call that out for what it is, but she is a slay queen, you know what I mean?
A tactic that Steve Jobs also used with the original Mac and the iPhone. But in Theranos' case, the losing team would be fired. Elizabeth also started doing some ethically questionable things, such as running a pilot test on cancer patients with the company Pfizer. She knew the product didn't work yet, but insisted on running real tests on people that had serious illnesses. To highlight how serious this was, blood tests are usually used to increase or decrease a patient's dosage of medication or diagnose conditions which may require immediate action. Doctors use lab results to base 70% of their decisions on. If the results are false, it could be fatal. Of course, the only reason the cancer trials went ahead is that Elizabeth had been outright lying to investors and clients about how well the product actually worked. The same year, the company's CFO discovered that Elizabeth had been lying. He told her to stop. Instead of agreeing, she fired him on the spot. After this, Elizabeth never hired another chief financial officer again, leaving the position vacant for a decade. In 2007, there was no bigger Silicon Valley star than Steve Jobs. Elizabeth had started developing an obsession for Jobs. An employee even found a newspaper cutout on her desk where someone...
What's insane is the fact that she had institutional backing behind Theranos. Politicians were botting the company and it never actually worked. It's almost like all these fucking people with institutional power are just fucking idiots. Something that we have experienced and seen time and time again, including but not limited to the latest iteration with the FTX saga, where so many motherfuckers with proximity to power, with actual power, so many motherfuckers on the VC side were literally just like sucking off FTX as hard as possible. Meanwhile, Sam Bankman-Fried was straight up fucking personally being like, I'm running a Ponzi scheme, as a matter of fact. Have you noticed that I'm running a Ponzi scheme? And everybody was like, nah, dude, nah, dog. This is a great one, though. You say it's a scheme, but it's more like a Ponzi victory, I think. It's awesome.
Called her the next Steve Jobs. The obsession bordered on insanity. For example, after she found out that Steve scheduled marketing meetings on Wednesdays, she would do the same with the same marketing firm that Steve used. She would even recruit a few Apple employees. One of this included one of Steve Jobs' oldest friends and the former senior vice president of software at Apple, Avi Tevanian. He even went out of retirement to join the Theranos board. The board of Theranos was made up of a star-studded panel. Don Lucas, who mentored the founder of Oracle, was the chairman.
Yeah, she should have done Marketing Mondays. You're right. Marketing Wednesdays doesn't have the same hit. If she had kept it a Monday, dude, maybe she wouldn't be in jail right now. Okay, shouts out to Big A.
One day, Elizabeth wanted to restructure the company's shares, which would give her majority voting rights. Ex-Apple employee, Avi, who was on the board, didn't think that this was a good idea, and paired with the information that he'd received...
I mean, she grifted so hard, she literally grifted Henry Kissinger, right? Didn't Henry Kissinger play a role in this too? Which, you know, probably the only good thing she's ever done, but... Am I misremembering this? Anyway, let's continue.
Received from employees about the problems during testing, he felt like he had to do something. He spoke with Don Lucas, the chairman, but this resulted in Avi resigning after he felt that his advice fell on deaf ears. Elizabeth had the board wrapped around her finger. She was a master manipulator. She spoke in a low baritone voice in order to be taken more seriously.
The question was, as a 19-year-old, how do you go about the process of convincing people that you know what you're doing? It's about finding people who believe in you, because the worst possible thing in the world is to have someone who doesn't believe in you backing you, because that's not going to result in a good situation.
On occasion, she forgot to put on the voice and was caught using a natural voice before realizing and dropping several tones.
No, it hasn't. Well, if I use traditional words to describe what we're doing,
this is one of the funniest parts about this. Oh, that's good.
Because people then associate it with conventional processes for analyzing drugs and development.
Shortly after the company moved to a prime location in Silicon Valley, a new member of the sales team soon found out that the financial projections were based off pilot tests that weren't honest. The issue was brought to the board, who ran an emergency meeting and decided to fire Elizabeth. 2 hours after they brought her in to tell her the decision, she had convinced them to reverse it. This incredible power of persuasion is another reason why Theranos went so far with no real working technology.
I don't remember her voice chatters. I don't remember. We were at a fucking Mutual's birthday party. Okay, I don't remember. I'm sorry. I failed you. Murat was also there. Bother him next time. He's in the chat.
Technology. Shortly after the meeting, Elizabeth fired those who raised the alarm. By this stage, employees leaving or being fired was common. In fact, all employees who came from Apple would leave in just a couple of years. Around this time, an old family friend, Richard Fuers, created a patent for a method of transmitting information from blood testing machines to doctors. He did this out of revengeful spite for not being asked advice when Elizabeth started the company in his field of expertise. He was a doctor who sold his medical demonstration video company for $50 million. In a few years' time, Richard would go to court with Theranos over the patent he made, which in private he called the Theranos killer. Richard's patents wouldn't go on to kill Theranos, but his actions would. By 2009, Sunny, the millionaire Pakistani immigrant, was now Elizabeth's boyfriend and had joined the company as second in charge. Sunny came from a software background and had little knowledge of the inner workings of a medical company. He claimed to have written 10 million lines of code while at Microsoft, but the average developer at Microsoft only writes 1,000 lines a year. He also boasted of having extreme wealth and only coming to work because he wanted to. He also had a habit of latching onto buzzwords and using them despite little knowledge of the topic.
Yikes.
Engineers would use terms out of context to see if we'd continue to use them. He did. But Sunny knew how to control people. He was feared within the company. He constantly fired people and let his tempers flare. 2010 saw a whole lot of money pouring into Silicon Valley. Facebook, Twitter, and Uber were all taking off. Meanwhile, Walgreens and Safeway had both entered talks with Theranos to partner and create wellness centers. These were sections in their stores where patients could get blood tests. Theranos presented Walgreens with 192 different tests that could be performed by their Edison machine. However, only about half of them were even theoretically possible. The only proof that the technology worked was a review from Johns Hopkins Medical School. The document was only 2 pages long and summarized a meeting where Theranos showed the university representatives some data results. No actual testing was done on the machines themselves. But Theranos was hot stuff, and Walgreens...
Like, that's the crazy thing, is that, like, this is medical tech, man. I really thought that there would be more of a thorough investigation into medical technology and not just like, oh man, well, they're clouded and other people that are clouded in the field agree with them, so I'm just going to go along with it. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. He said the second biggest scam. The biggest is React Andy content. Yeah. The amount of people that I have falsely got into believing that they don't have cancer as a consequence of my React Andy content is unimaginable. Okay? When you watch me fucking react to YouTube videos, okay? It's basically the same as like doing a pinprick, okay, on your thumb and then magically having your cancer disappear. That's how it works.
Walgreens had the fear of missing out and letting their competitors land a partnership. Elizabeth also made such an impression on the Walgreens and Safeway executives that they trusted every word she said. Combined, Safeway and Walgreens gave Theranos a...
To be fair, though, React Randall stuff does bring in some of the most cancerously brain-broken motherfuckers into the chat, who then I do subsequently reply to, and therefore probably do end up giving you brain cancer. So, you know, there you go. Here's your diagnosis.
$105 million in investment and loans. Around this time, Elizabeth realized that the Edison wasn't good enough, so she commissioned the Minilab, the third iteration of the blood testing product. Meanwhile, Sunny intimidated employees and watched CCTV footage of them to see exactly how long people were working. One time, he told an employee that he would, quote, fix him after finding that he'd only worked 8 hours per day. Elizabeth backed up the decision, stating to employees that, quote, if anyone here believes that you are not working on the best thing humans have ever built, or if you're cynical, then you should leave, end quote. Basically, anyone who agreed with Elizabeth got promoted, and those who doubted got fired. By 2012, Safeway wasn't doing well. They had poured $350 million into renovations of store space across their store locations in anticipation for the Theranos machines. They were only met with constant launch delays and excuses. When Theranos did start accepting Safeway employee samples, they were tested on existing commercial third-party machines in a lab. But Safeway was lied to and given the impression that all of these tests were being performed on Theranos Edison machines.
They weren't even running most of the tests on the Theranos devices, and most of the tests were being run on third-party machines.
Did Ms. Holmes know at the time that Theranos could not do all those?
Does this not sound similar to Elon? Yes, the only difference is like Elon went the stock market route. Okay, and Elon also didn't have like Elon is giving you a car, okay? And at least like there's a car that you can drive now, right? So you can use a bunch of different things to like keep your stock afloat and, you know, have your stock be considered as a tech company, which is like a great way to avoid further scrutiny. Elon also is a man that definitely, plays a role. Elon also bought the idea. That's another difference. Like, if you asked Elon to create something from zero, from the ground up, it would look like this. But Elon had enough money from PayPal to be able to just buy into a pre-existing product. He still was able to grift his way into turning that pre-existing product into something that it really isn't, and have its valuation skyrocket. Oh, please, it would look way worse than this. Sophie 69, I'm sorry, but like, this is pretty much bottom of the barrel. You know, like, at least the fucking cars go. You know what I mean? You sit in it, you can fucking drive it. Like, this wasn't a thing. This was just a lie from start to finish. Okay, I know you want to defend the girl bossing, but goddamn, like, I mean, you're lying to cancer patients, man. I don't know how to fucking defend this. Like, I don't know how you can look at this from like a feminist angle as like, yeah, no, this is pretty fire. Like, I just like examining the social factors surrounding her too. Okay, well, examine a little harder on the victim side then. You know, there's a lot of fraud in the medical sector, okay? It's all gross. Examine those other ones as well and say, hey, maybe they should get punished as hard as Theranos did, okay? That's valid. Because men wouldn't get the same treatment? I mean, that's crazy, dude. Like, Martin Shkreli exists, you know? He got fucking yeeted. You know, there are examples of this, and what he did was bad, but this is arguably worse. Let her cook. I mean, yeah, no, got 7 years for $7 million. Holmes got 15 years for $700 million. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how you can girl boss this up. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't know what the girl boss angle is here that doesn't make you sound like a fucking psycho. Like, I don't think there is one, man. It's pretty bad. What she did is like really, really fucked up. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, you can't say she was faking it till she made it, because there was no future in sight where she could have possibly made it. It wasn't like it's not like she was actually actively working on the back end on making this medical technology become a reality. If anything, she was actually further stopping efforts by being like, we have the product already. Like, the tech exists now. You know what I mean? When it didn't. You've talked about this before?
Kidding me? Oh my God, I hate women. I hate women so much. I've literally never hated women and feminists more in this fucking very moment than I do right now. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my fucking God.
There you go. That's how I feel currently.
Those tests?
She knew.
Meanwhile,
I know the defense of Holmes as a victim of sexism is like literally a entire genre of it's there's always this is okay. Here's the thing. Okay, that argument is not even wrong, because that argument is supposed to be about how much fraudulent behavior happens in tech, but it's written in the worst fucking way you could write an article. Okay, that's the worst part, because like, it's true. So much of this horrifyingly fraudulent behavior gets brushed aside in the boys club, partially because it's not just all boys, but also because like there's a lot of money to be made, okay? Hi, Tina Kitten. Like most of Silicon Valley is fake it till you make it. It just depends on who you're faking it to and how hard you're faking it. And do you have the capacity to make it? Or if you fail to make it, will people literally be falsely thinking that they don't have cancer when they do? Okay? That's the main difference. And ultimately, I firmly believe this is the one instance where it fucking worked. Hey, to the rest of you, don't try it. It's going to fail. Don't fucking try to pull that shit off. You're not going to be able to do it. You're going to piss me off. Don't fucking do it. All right, let's continue.
Theranos' lawsuit from Richard, the jealous family friend and medical doctor, was in full swing. He was serious about taking Theranos down. He hired the same lawyer that worked on the deposition case of Bill Gates, and the cost, $1,000 an hour. A pivotal point for Theranos' downfall came with the subpoena of Ian Gibbons, who had led the chemistry team since 2005. In May of 2013, Ian was notified by Theranos that in just 2 days' time, he would be involved in Richard's trial. He feared that anything that he might say may put the company in jeopardy and expose the lies. Ian was miserable at Theranos and had just been demoted, but feared that leaving as a 67-year-old would make it impossible for him to get another job. The next morning, Ian's wife, Rochelle, found him in the bathroom having overdosed on medication. He died a week later in hospital. Back at Theranos, in a display of the coldest heart, Elizabeth didn't return Rochelle's call about the death of her husband. Elizabeth informed only a small number of employees about Ian's passing and loosely mentioned hosting a service. This was never carried out. She seemed to have just brushed off Ian's death pretty casually. After spending $2 million on the case, Richard settled in a massive blow to his pride. This would fuel the fire in Richard that would eventually bring down Theranos. During this period, Theranos was still carrying out tests on third-party machines and desperately trying to get results. This included stacking 6 mini-labs on top of each other to get a higher throughput of tests. The additional heat generated actually hindered the accuracy of tests further. But Theranos didn't have time to work on their technology. They had already promised their machines to the world, and they had a $140 million contract with Walgreens, which required them to launch by February 2013, and they were 4 months overdue. The lies continued. The financial forecast.
It's interesting to think that if she just didn't lie so much, she could have run out the clock, said they couldn't do it, and just declared bankruptcy for the company and walked away with a golden parachute like every other big failed corporation in the U.S. I think when it's medical tech and you've duped so many fucking rich people into your scheme, I don't know if you can do that. She killed somebody while you were gone? Wait, what? I think like what is this? Ubiome is another company, and the founders, Ubiome co-founders, are charged with fraud by the SEC. The founders of microbiome testing startup Ubiome have been charged with defrauding investors out of $60 million by convincing them that it was a successful business. You know the funniest part about this shit is that like half the time they're literally going to fucking jail for defrauding investors and not because of like the human toll, which, you know, you can make the argument is like incalculable, but also it does say a lot about how our court system is designed to protect the interests of capital owners. Always remember that. Like that's always the reason why people are going to fucking jail. It's crazy. Like we have a court system, we have a criminal justice system that is designed that like if you make a product that is straight up killing motherfuckers, okay, in most circumstances you're not directly culpable for that, okay? You make rich people lose money though, man, you're going to jail.
That Sunny gave to investors were 10 times higher than the internal forecasts of the company. These numbers were completely fabricated as Theranos was operating without a CFO for the last 7 years, ever since he was fired. Theranos' board, as always, was still stacked with high-profile reputable names, so no one doubted the company. This included former US Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, former Director of US Office of Management and Budget George Shultz, and future Secretary of Defense Jim Mad Dog Mattis had all joined the board. The company was very political.
Yes, dude. Yes, just the best and brightest, dude. Look at that. We're going to run that again.
Former US Secretary of State Henry Kissinger.
This motherfucker, bro.
Former Director of US Office of Management and Budget George Shultz, and future Secretary of Defense Jim Mad Dog Mattis had all joined the board. The company was very politically connected by this stage. Elizabeth even threw Hillary Clinton a fundraiser for her 2016 campaign. Money just kept pouring in.
Man, the Democrats really don't have a good the Clintons specifically don't have a great track record with who their fundraisers are. You know what I'm saying? You got Sam Bankman recently. Holy fuck, dude. The Clintons, man. Goddamn.
Partner Fund put $94 million in shares. Rupert Murdoch chipped in $125 million. The Walmart brothers put in $150 million. The DeVos family put in another $100 million. This gave Theranos a $9 billion valuation, and Elizabeth was worth $5 billion alone. The shortcomings of the technology were well known within the company, but employees were usually too scared to do anything, fearing retaliation from Sonny, Elizabeth, or the company's lawyers. Employees were forced to sign confidentiality agreements when they started, and again when they left. This stopped a lot of people from taking action. Tyler Schultz, grandson of the board member George Schultz, was in a more privileged position. He noticed the issue.
Do you remember meeting Elizabeth Theranos Holmes at the birthday party that we went to? He does not. Murat does not remember Elizabeth Theranos Holmes.
Issues at Theranos, and after falling on Sonny and Elizabeth's deaf ears, he quit. He tried to talk to.
I was wearing the. Remember that place where we had the fucking photo? I think it's over here somewhere. It's the black tie one. Yeah. Wearing like. Oh, that one right there. That photo right behind me with me and Murat is literally from that birthday party. Yeah, look at how handsome you are in that photo with your long hair. At least your hair is growing again. That cut? Murat thinks I should bring back this cut. My cameras. Oh, I was doing some testing and failed because there's a massive fucking latency on the camera. What? Wait, what do you mean? Here, look, I'm just gonna throw on the 4K one. Look at the delay. Do you see the delay? It's actually not that bad. Kind of bad, but not the worst. Look a second. Oh, you want to order food? Yeah, go ahead. Did you get a single cam link? I didn't get a cam link. I'm using like a 4K Elgato 4K capture card, like a 4K. Literally unwatchable? Well, don't worry. You don't have to fucking watch. Shut up. Here you go. Speaking of hair, apparently the new minoxidil pill is pretty effective and the mechanism of action is different, so should work with Propecia to how super hairs? What? I mean, that's what I use already. Oh, you mean the oral Rogaine, basically. That's what you're talking about, right?
To his grandfather. He told George about the Edison's inaccuracy and the constant failing of quality control tests. He told him about how Theranos had duped everyone by testing samples on existing third-party commercial machines and not Theranos' own Edison machines. Incredibly, Elizabeth had put such a spell on George Schultz that he would disregard everything his grandson Tyler told him. In mid-2014, Fortune magazine released a front-page story titled, "This CEO is out for blood." This rockets Elizabeth to celebrity status, and from this
By the way, they did this with fucking Elon Musk as well. All of these institutions are fucking fraudulent. They hype up fraudulent motherfuckers.
point, she is constantly making media appearances. Forbes, USA Today, NPR, Fox Business, CNBC, CNN, and CBS News all took their turn to cover the success story of the youngest ever self-made female billionaire. Barack Obama made Elizabeth the US Ambassador for Global Entrepreneurship, and she was added to the Board of Fellows at Harvard Medical School. Elizabeth enjoyed the fame. She grew her security team to 20. Her office was redesigned to look like the president's Oval Office, complete with bulletproof glass. Elizabeth spoke on a TED Talk about her idea to change the world. She said soon no one would have to say goodbye too soon, and went on to tell the audience of a heartfelt story about how her uncle had passed away from cancer. But of course, the TED Talk.
Meanwhile, what's up? Like the company still doesn't have a CFO. That's how they're operating. They got no fucking chief financial officer. That's crazy.
Was merely an act. In reality, she wasn't even close to her uncle and had just exploited his death for her narrative. Meanwhile, cracks were beginning to crumble the empire. Richard, by this stage, had created a gang of Theranos skeptics, including Ian's widow, Rochelle. They collected information and then took it to John Carreyrou at the Wall Street Journal. As John began investigating, countless sources and former employees came out of the woodwork. They anonymously provided information about the story. Theranos attacked everyone who was talking. They used their pile of money and they threatened to sue everyone else who spoke to the Wall Street Journal. They even hired private investigators to stalk anyone they suspected. Several letters were sent to the Wall Street Journal.
Bro, this is literally Elon Musk. Like, watching this back-to-back is so funny. Watching this back-to-back after Jabari's Elon Musk video is pretty funny to think about because, like, it's exactly the same. Like, almost exactly the fucking same. It's crazy.
To try and kill the story, threatening.
It's like I'm gonna tie up the saga completely by watching a Sam Bankman-Fried video for you to understand that like all these motherfuckers do the same shit.
Defamation lawsuits. Rupert Murdoch, the owner of the Wall Street Journal and investor in Theranos, was asked by Elizabeth to personally kill the story. He refused, stating that he had confidence in the editors to handle the truth, whatever it may be. The reaction from Theranos was intense, and the story wasn't even out yet. Business as usual continued at Theranos. Elizabeth was making White House appearances often then, but under the veneer, the machines could still only do a small number of tests and were inaccurate with even just those. Theranos continued to demonstrate the mini-lab for VIP guests. They pricked their finger, then waited until they left, and then went on to use existing commercial third-party lab machines to return the results. Vice President Joe Biden even paid Theranos a visit. He was shown a fake lab that was set up just for the visit.
Not Brandon.
Saying that it was the lab of the future and praised Theranos. The dark truth about Theranos was finally unveiled in the Wall Street Journal article of October 15th, 2015. It was a bombshell. All the major news articles picked it up. People began questioning Theranos and its secrecy. Elizabeth took it all in her stride, not shying away from the questions, but instead outright lying to the public. It appeared that she thought everyone would just believe her again, but this time it was different. Now people were asking serious questions.
And just this morning, the Wall Street Journal.
I guess this is when they recognized she was a woman.
Man, a pretty scathing article about the company, alleging that the company's proprietary testing devices.
It's so funny because on the one hand, there's like people saying like, oh, she only reached that level of success because she's a woman, which is false. And not because she was a woman, but because she was a sociopath. And on the other hand, there are people who are saying, well, she only got punishment because she's a woman, which is also not true. Okay? Check the records. HasanAbi backed Theranos. Bro, check your brain, dog. Okay? Calm down. Why do you do this? Why? Yeah, I did. I gave them a small loan of $10 million. Okay, so what? All so I could finally make a return on that investment and tell you that at the top of the hour there's a 6-second ad break and gift subs. And I can't do that anymore. because she stole my $10 million. Okay, and now she's going to jail. But at the top of the hour, you will still be seeing a 60-second ad break. Yeah. Wait, what? Why? The fuck? Uh-oh. And yeah, if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free. Or you can get gifted a sub. Seriously, thank you for the 20 gifted subs. No, the birthday party was like after this shit had popped off already. I was not, I think it was like maybe at the precipice of it. I don't remember. Pretty sure it could have been after. God's third leg, thank you for the 20 gifted subs. A. Diabeto, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Like, I didn't hang out with this person, you know? Maybe went to that guy's funeral. Yes, I was definitely surprised to see her in the wild. Flazy, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Here's the 1 minute ad break now.
This may be inaccurate and basically accusing Theranos of deceptive practices to Elizabeth Holmes, the founder and CEO of Theranos, to give her a chance to answer the charges raised in the article. Ms. Holmes, welcome back to Mad Money.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
What do you think's going on here?
This is what happens when you work to change things. And first they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden you change the world. And I have to say, I personally wish.
The voice is so funny. It's just like, I can't get over it, dude. Yeah, no, it's crazy. Honestly, I mean, yeah. First they say you're crazy, and then you win.
Shocked to see that the journal would publish something like this.
Just as the story had been published, the FDA made a surprise inspection at Theranos. In further investigations, it was found that the Theranos Edison blood testing machine
baby,
only performed 12 out of 250 tests, and even those produced wildly erratic results. Now, Theranos was in full damage control. Elizabeth broke up with Sonny and fired him. A criminal investigation was underway, and a probe by the Securities and Exchange Commission was also proceeding. The investors began suing Theranos one by one. Partner Fund sued for $100 million, Walgreens for $140 million. Elizabeth had to close the trial lab and had to pay $4.5 million to Arizona State, where most patients had received testing. Theranos had voided nearly 1 million lab results.
Why does she sound like me in my first week of FTM voice training? Stop. Oh no.
10 patients would sue Theranos for medical battery. But shockingly, amongst all of this, Elizabeth never apologized. It seemed to her merely a mistake along the way which could be fixed. So Elizabeth and Sonny both knew what they were doing. Lying to investors,
nap time. Thank you for the 19. Thank you for the 20 gifted subs.
Clients, the regulators, patients, and even their own board. No one outside can be blamed for not realizing the fraud ahead of time. Even the board, made up of seasoned professionals, was masterfully manipulated into giving Elizabeth 99.7% of the voting rights. She seemed, by all accounts, a sociopath, willing to stop at nothing to make her company a success, not caring who or what got in her way. And who knows how far the lie could have gone. She continued with all smiles and lies even after the truth came out. Elizabeth's actions could be a microcosm, a case for a modern problem in society where the need to be successful, or at least appear successful, outweighs everything else. There's possibly another fault at play here, a fault in the human condition. It's the illusionary effect where if you repeat a lie enough times, people start to believe it, especially if you have credible names surrounding the product. The SEC settled with Elizabeth Holmes in March of 2018. She lost voting control, had to give away her portion of the stock, and was banned from being an officer or director of any public company for 10 years. Sonny still hasn't reached a settlement with the SEC. Both Sonny and Elizabeth have been indicted on criminal charges in an ongoing lawsuit at the time of this video. They have both pleaded not guilty and each face 20 years in prison.
Well, she went for 11. As of today, ladies and gentlemen, there's an update on this story. That's the reason why we're watching. Miss Mel